Okay, so think about this for a second. Have you ever wondered about the bustling microscopic metropolis that's literally operating inside of you right now? If your blood is basically a biological delivery system, does that exact same fluid act as both the delivery boy bringing you fresh packages and the garbage truck hauling away the trash? It's kind of a huge central mystery of our anatomy, right? Figuring out how one single fluid manages such incredibly complex dual-purpose logistics without just entirely mixing things up.
Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going on a really fascinating tour of our internal transit network. We're going to take a close look at the human circulatory system, mapping out the heavy-duty plumbing, the high-speed highways, and the massive central pumping station that literally keeps you alive.
All right, let's dive into this. Here is the master blueprint for our city tour today. We'll start with the body's delivery system, compare open and closed plumbing networks, step inside the main pumping station, take a drive down the body's pipes and highways, track the double circulation route, and finally, we'll marvel at nature's finest engineering. Starting off with Section 1, the body's delivery system. So, our circulatory system is the ultimate transport infrastructure, and it handles two main jobs, delivering oxygen to your cells and hauling away the waste. Now, answering that very first question, how does one liquid do both things? Well, blood isn't just red water. It's a highly organized system with completely separate departments. Floating inside the liquid are red blood cells. You can think of them as the dedicated delivery boys. They pick up fresh oxygen from the lungs and drop it off at the cells. But meanwhile, the liquid part of the blood itself, which is called plasma, acts like a fleet of garbage trucks. The carbon dioxide and cellular waste dissolve directly into this liquid plasma to be hauled away. So you've got one transit system, but two totally different departments. Moving right along to Section 2, open versus closed systems. Now, if this system is so efficient, you might ask, why didn't nature just give the exact same plumbing infrastructure to every creature on Earth? Well, nature designs according to energy needs. Take a small insect, like a cockroach. They use what's called an open system. Think of it kind of like a water balloon. The heart pumps, but the blood just empties directly into the body cavity. The organs essentially sit there and soak in the blood like sponges. The pressure is incredibly low. But us humans, we use a closed system. Our blood never, ever leaves the sealed pipes. Why? Well, imagine trying to supply water to a 50-story skyscraper versus just filling up a bucket. Because humans are large and our brains demand massive amounts of oxygen instantly, we absolutely need a heavy-duty, high-pressure, perfectly closed plumbing system to fight gravity and blast that blood to every single corner of our bodies. Which brings us to Section 3, the main pumping station. Located right in your chest cavity, nestled slightly to the left between the lungs, is this muscular pump. It actually starts beating while we are still inside our mother's womb, and it works relentlessly until our very last day. But here's a serious engineering problem. Your heart expands and contracts about 100,000 times a day. With that much constant movement, wouldn't it just rub against the surrounding organs and get severely damaged by friction? Well, nature brilliantly solved this with a double-layered membrane called the pericardium. It wraps right around the heart and acts perfectly as a cushion, basically biological engine oil, keeping the motor running incredibly smoothly without wearing out any of the parts around it. If we look inside, the station is divided into 4 distinct rooms or chambers. The top 2 are the atriums, which receive blood, and the bottom 2 are the ventricles, which pump it out. Notice that solid, impenetrable wall right down the middle? That's called the septum. It prevents the pure, oxygen-rich blood from ever mixing with the impure, garbage-filled blood. The right side only handles impure blood, and the left side handles pure. And take a really close look at the left ventricle. It is massively thick and heavily reinforced. That's because while the right side only has to just push blood next door to the lungs, that left ventricle has to forcefully blast blood against gravity all the way up to your brain and all the way down to your toes. All right, let's head out of the station for Section 4, the body's pipes and highways. So the pump is primed and ready. Let's take our tour out onto the actual city streets and look at the vessels carrying this continuous, life-saving traffic. Now, you might be wondering, if it's all just carrying blood, why on earth did nature design 3 completely different types of biological pipes? Why overcomplicate the plumbing? Well, just like city infrastructure, it's all about pressure and purpose. First, you have your arteries. These are your thick, muscular main supply lines carrying blood away from the heart at extremely high pressure. Second, you have veins. These bring the blood back. Because the pressure is very low on this return trip, veins have special little valves built into them, almost like stairs, so the blood doesn't just fall backward due to gravity, especially when it's coming up from your legs.
And third, you have capillaries. These are the tiny back alleyways. They are so incredibly microscopic, literally thinner than a single strand of hair, that those red blood cell delivery boys have to line up and pass through them single file just to drop off their oxygen.
Now, there's a really common misconception out there that arteries only carry pure oxygenated blood. Let's completely debunk that right now. In biology, an artery is strictly defined by its direction of traffic, not its cargo. Any vessel carrying blood away from the heart is an artery, period. Because the right side of the heart pushes impure blood away toward the lungs to get cleaned, that specific pipe is called the pulmonary artery. See, it's all about the direction of the traffic, not what's in the truck. This takes us to Section 5, the double circulation route. Let's put this whole puzzle together and actually track a single delivery unit's transit route. Human beings operate on a double circulation system. The first half of the journey is the pulmonary circuit. This is where the garbage trucks arrive. Impure, oxygen-depleted blood from your body enters the right atrium. It drops down into the right ventricle, and then bam, it gets pumped right over to the lungs. Here, the carbon dioxide trash is dropped off so you can exhale it out, and fresh, new oxygen cargo is loaded right up. So you might ask, why does the blood have to go all the way back to the heart instead of just going straight to the rest of the body from the lungs? Well, those alleyway capillaries in the lungs are incredibly delicate, so the blood pressure has to drop to practically zero while it's there. If that super low pressure blood went straight for your toes, it simply wouldn't have the physical strength to make the trip. So we need circuit 2. The freshly oxygenated blood returns to the left atrium, drops into that massively reinforced left ventricle, gets instantly repressurized, and is blasted out to the entire body through the aorta, which is the thickest, highest pressure highway in your whole body. And get this, guess how long this whole double loop process takes? If you were just sitting down right now, resting, a single drop of blood completes this massive, complex, dual circuit in an average of just 45 to 60 seconds. Less than a minute. It is blazing fast. And finally, Section 6, Nature's Finest Engineering. For our final stop, let's look at the diagnostic meters of this incredible system. We've all seen movies where the heartbeat sounds like a thumping drum, right? Well, in reality, the scientific sound is known as lub-dub, and it has absolutely nothing to do with a drum. That iconic sound is actually mechanical. It is the literal physical sound of the heart's valves, acting like heavy security doors, snapping shut incredibly fast to prevent any blood from flowing backwards into the previous chamber. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what doctors mean when they measure your blood pressure. Those famous numbers, 120/80, they represent pure physical force against your pipe walls. The 120 is the peak pressure when your heart's pump fully contracts, forcefully pushing the blood out. The 80 represents the resting pressure on your arteries in that tiny split second when the heart relaxes between beats. To put this whole shebang into historical perspective, for centuries, people completely believed the ancient Greek physician Galen. He taught that blood was created in the liver and that our organs just ate it up like fuel in a car. It wasn't until 1628 that an engineer of anatomy named William Harvey finally mapped this out and proved that blood isn't consumed at all. He realized it is an incredibly efficient, perfectly sealed closed-circuit loop where the blood is just endlessly perfectly recycled. Which leaves us with this final thought. Your inner city never sleeps. The ultimate delivery system is running smoothly right now, beating 100,000 times a day without you ever having to even think about it for a second. If your body is capable of this level of perfectly sealed, high-pressure engineering, what other incredible secrets are hiding right under your skin? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you next time.